What's up, friends? This is Jazz, bringing you a new series for now. In this series, well, I can't even call it a review. I'm just going to call it kind of my opinions, my thought on each chapter of the fan fiction, Pokémon Crimson Fury by the N-Man64. Now, some of you may know who I mean. He also has a YouTube channel. Great content. Check it out. But as else I found out, he's really talented at writing. Like, something I would far, how do I put it? His skills would probably go far above mine. This story is obviously a fan fiction because obviously no one but the owners of Pokemon own Pokemon, right? But his detail on all the Pokemon games and that are immense, as you could tell by reading. Now, each chapter, I'm going to go into details of that chapter, right? I'm only going to be talking about the chapter alone, for I won't be spoiling future stuff for you guys. Now, this series might be once a week, once a month. We'll just see, because I want to get everything right. There's already 20, including the one I'm going to talk about right now. But there's currently 19 actual chapters out, so I'm far behind on this, but I want to also give some leeway for things won't be spoiled too much. So that's why I'm doing them very infrequently. For any of you who are interested in reading, can read it first. And when I say it isn't going to be quite a review, it's because obviously I don't have the writing skills and all of that. I'll just say things that I liked about it, and if I do notice things that I can give a critique on with absolute knowledge, I will. But if it's something that I couldn't do better, I will not. I will leave it be. Because, as I said, I don't have a big imagination, and even knowing Pokemon as well as I do, I would not be able to put a story together in the way he does. Like, he uses all the knowledge on the Pokemon games and even some of the anime in that he knows. And I'm not saying he's copying and pasting. No, his characters itself are all his own, except for the ones mentioned that were from video games. But he's made most of the characters all himself. Right? The Pokemon obviously were not his own creation. Well, the actual Pokemon themselves. But a lot of the main characters, all of the main characters are pretty much all his. Right? That's where he does get credit. He's able to tie in his own universe, his own, region, arcana, and include every generation up till now in it. And alright, let's just go into my point. The first chapter, or the backstory. Now guys, I want to say something extremely funny right now. This is all on Jazz, not on his part. When I first read it, a few weeks ago, but before, just at Christmas, I thought that was the whole story. You know what, that was Jazz. I didn't really read backstory. Sometimes I will jump a little bit, misread something, but as that is part of my disability. I know how to read, but sometimes my brain just kind of skips over parts. So I was reading it, and I'm like, wait, this is going awful fast. Right. And I was half expecting the end. Right? I'm like, first, guys, after reading as much as I did of this story, he knows what he's doing, the N-Man64, he does. But when I first read it, not knowing this was the backstory, I thought, bud, you're going a little fast there, aren't you? It's like, blah, 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 the end, right? It didn't look like it was pacing at all, getting to know the characters at all. And guys, again, this is all me, on me. Nothing he did wrong. The way I read it was wrong, right? Because as a backstory, that is perfect pacing, right? We want to get all that out of the way before we can go to the real, the meat of the story. So, again, N-Man64, that's where my mind was skipping. I'm putting that all on myself. Anyone who reads it, the first chapter, don't say, that's poorly, like, unlike myself, read it properly first. Now, to the actual story. Well, it's a long story, even though I said it was really quick paced. It pretty much centers on Michael Kinsting, I'm bad at pronouncing things too, and his family, who were trying to take over for their grandfather, James Kinsting, who died trying to save his family when his best friend, Balazar Ace, went nuts because of the power of the Crimson Moon, which is like something that happens every 15, 13 years. And the children of James all were kind of bickering amongst themselves, so it was really up to the next generation, including Michael, to, maybe set things right after the death of James. And they all start off with adorable Eevees, but only 3, which is Michael, Chris, and Cameron, really show the potential to become the new champion, which James was. Now, again, it's a long story, so I'm going to kind of I won't spoil it completely for you guys. They do traveling, including Michael's best friend, Julia Pines. They eventually meet the champion of the region, Giselle, which Michael kind of, he's 12 at this point, and a champion who's probably 16 to 18 or 20, kind of looks ideal, right? And she's full of power, and Julia's, as I said, just not having it, pretty much. But eventually, it turns out she's part of this syndicate, who is ruled by Balazar's son, Elazar, who, even after his grandfather's downfall, who originally, he went crazy, Balazar, from the Crimson Moon. Originally, he had good intentions for it. His son, on the other hand, not so much. So, Giselle ends up taking Michael to be one of the lead experiments by Elazar and Caius. Again, guys, I am not good at pronouncing names. I know what I read, I just can't pronounce them correctly. You guys could go on and correct me on that, how to pronounce them. But the one thing about branding, which is what they were trying to do with Michael, is that the Crimson Fury will not come upon those who are abusive or not close to their Pokemon. So the ideal candidate is for someone who has extreme good bond, that they're close to their Pokemon, which Michael fit to a T. He not only was strong after getting the 8 badges, but he had a bond with his Pokemon, which someone who was using a Pokemon just for power would not be a good candidate for this, because it would not affect them. Interesting, though. It's interesting phenomena in that way. And he tries to escape, and he does manage to escape with the help from his loyal Espeon, Icarus, who unfortunately was mortally wounded and dies. But that brings out, he was branded, so that brings out his, anger, Crimson Fury. And him and his Dragonite, I'm sorry, he has a Dragonite too, destroys the laboratory. But the one tragic thing is, when he gets back to his hometown, again, I'm not good with place names, so I might insert it if I could reread it again. His family does not believe him. Technically, it looked like he killed a whole lab of people. So imagine what that would look on you. If you didn't know the context, and the fact that one of the members is the champion of the region who's supposed to be beloved, they took her word over his, Giselle's, and banished him. His own grandmother banished him from Arcania. 4 years he was wandering region to region. He eventually does get in the Kanto region, and ends up battling the newly crowned champion Mark, who ends up losing when Michael goes into the Crimson Fury. And ashamed again, he runs off. But Mark ends up becoming one of his greatest allies. After originally wanting to rival him, she ends up leaving with Mike as they travel to the Hoenn region, where after a whole catastrophe happens with a character named Hunter destroying a Pokemon Center, killing one of the main, caretakers inside, which is the grandmother of the next character, Lizzie, which is actually based on me, surprisingly. I mean, I was really surprised about that, to be honest. So, after them hunting down to look for Jirachi and save Jirachi from Hunter, Lizzie ends up, how do I put it? She becomes friends with Michael and Mark. But Michael just cannot feel happy, and celebrate with them. He still feels ashamed of what he is and what happened, so he just leaves them behind. Although there is another plot I forgot to mention about him helping Mark rescue Mew before that, so that was really quickly mentioned too, so that's why I kind of forgot it there. He ends up going to the Umbre region, which I love he brought up, from Pokemon Colosseum and Pokemon XD. He ends up trying to look for Wes and Rui, which again, are characters he does not own. They are two of the main characters from Pokemon Colosseum. He finds them in Outgate Village, and also finds Egan, Rui's grandfather. And interesting enough, there is some ties between the Shadow Pokemon phenomenon and what's happening with Michael, from what it seems. Because when he touches the Relic Stone, which is used to help purify Pokemon in Colosseum, he starts to feel some of his darkness disappear, even if it's for a short time. So it's very interesting if there is a connection between all that. And it's kind of a genius connection, because really, when you're in the Fury, you can't control yourself. Same thing with Shadow Pokemon. When they go into Shadow mode, they can't reason with logic. So again, a really good connection, and I'm impressed that he made that connection. Which also makes me really want to play Colosseum again. But I think I'd be better off with my GameCube than my Wii, because the batteries that thing takes just to turn it on. But anyway, I know a little off topic here, but this saying makes me want to play Colosseum again. And he's there for weeks. Meanwhile, Julia, her grandmother, and her cousin Piper are the only ones that are kind of rebelling against Giselle's new order, because she's a dictator. Well, that's the way it seems, in a way now. Sorry if that's a strong way of saying it, but that's just kind of how it was like. And Julia actually finally finds evidence of Michael's story about what happened, that he isn't lying. So she tries to get help, but they soon are arrested. Like, the grandmother is arrested for treason. And both Piper and Julia are monitored. But I think Julia and Piper managed to get out and get to Cameron and Chris's, which are two of the other cousins that went on the journey with Michael. Right? And they end up believing the evidence after a while, too. So, Chris, Cameron, and Julia end up going to look for Michael, or look for someone who can take on Giselle, because there's a ban in the Pokemon League that no one can challenge or register. But I guess there is a loophole that if someone has already had registered before that, it could take on Giselle, to take on Giselle, then that would be allowed. It's kind of hard to explain those rules. I'm not good with, taking in and processing those rules, but as that, it is what it is. And it's probably straightforward to anyone who knows how to interpret them. So they end up looking, and Julia ends up finding Michael in a gate village, like all three of them do. But eventually Michael refuses to go back, right? Because he's been around the relic stone, as Egan suggested, till he could feel more, clear. And Cameron and Chris leave. But Julia refuses. She doesn't want to lose Michael again because, you know what, he likes him. It was kind of always there in a way. And she didn't want to lose him a second time after not believing him about everything the first time. So she stays and even joins him with the relic at one session when Celebi suddenly shows up and kisses Michael, and he feels, okay, I'm not saying this is the end, he feels better, at least for the time being, and Egan suggests Celebi goes with him. And they eventually go back to confront Giselle. Since he already had the qualifying badges, he, I think, is in that loophole. And originally, the Kinstings go back to Michael's side, which again is kind of half-assed, in my opinion. Oh, not every. I mean, there were some good ones that just were more in doubt. But like his grandmother, for example, Bonnie, kicked him out, right? They now that they know there's a chance, they run back to his side, again, half-assed. Firstly, and Michael's feelings towards them are completely warranted. But they make it so that Michael can challenge Giselle. Originally, she's like, well, okay, I'm going to kill Julia's grandmother if you don't forfeit immediately. But Chris and Cameron manages to get that information and flips it all over Arcadia in a way where everyone is forced to believe Michael. And they get this chance to challenge Giselle. But just when she's going to Alizar and Caius the Saver, the leader and the head, scientist, they run off on Giselle, just leaving her in the dust, which, wow. I'm like, yeah, Giselle, why didn't you see this was going to happen when the first time there was trouble? That usually almost always happens. If things go wrong with the ones that are in more the higher standards, bye! You clean up this mess yourself. Yeah, I don't know why, but I could kind of see that from Alizar anyway. I don't know what Caius, but Caius does anything Alizar wants with no question, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, bye, Giselle. The Crimson Fury takes over Michael. He stomps Giselle. Okay, I know that sounds like a quick out the door, push, bye. Like I was saying that I thought the Animated 64 was doing in the first few minutes. But, I mean, that's pretty much what happened. She was arrested, and when Michael was going to leave, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you, Mark and Lizzie came back in the picture. Yeah, see how much I care about my own character and I forget to bring up their reappearance? Yeah, they come back within a few weeks, right around the time Julia showed up and saying that they're with him to the end. Yeah, sorry, Story Me. I guess I wasn't thinking about my character much. Bye. I'm just like, no. They're in their kid. I promise. I'm not going to spoil everything else for you. We'll just say they're in the story more than that. So they reappear, and everyone convinces Michael, please come on, take over for Giselle and for your grandfather. And Michael eventually relents, and obviously all the characters, including Chris, Cameron, Mark, and Lizzie. Okay, Chris, Cameron, Mark, and Lizzie becomes the Elite Four. Michael becomes the champion. And, well, again, this is not the whole story. This is just the beginning. But my point being is I forgot the return of my character in Mark. Yeah, that's how much there is there. Right? I'm like, yeah, I'm sure the Animated 64 is going to laugh at that. Because they're getting the character you're based off of? I mean, again, there was a lot to go over in this one section alone. Now, hopefully the rest of this is not going to be as difficult because they're a little bit more, organized in a way. They're not having to push through the main backstory. So there's only going to be so much focus on each section, so it'll be a little easier to find, Also, this is just going to be the ending part of it. I'm going to let you know, I do not have any artwork for most of this stuff. But I will try to include Pokemon artwork, pictures, of the Pokemon. But I do not have any characters, visual representation for any of the new characters that are not, you know, in the story. I could put pictures for Rui, Wes, Steven, yeah, he was in there too, Egan, but any characters that are like to the N64, like Mike, get all that, I cannot include any visual representation. I do apologize, but that's just how it is. I mean, unless you count Lizzie when I include a big picture of myself, but, you know, that would be a little conceited. In a way, you already see my face enough as it is. So just try to visualize me when you think of Lizzie. That's the only other thing that I can kind of say, in a way. So I'm sorry for the lack of visual representation for the most part for the new characters. But you guys can understand. You can read the story and read the description of what they are like yourself. So anyway, guys, if you enjoyed this first section, give it a big thumbs up. And if you're new to this channel, like what you see, please subscribe and help this channel a lot. And don't forget to hit the bell notification so you'll know when new videos are coming out. And I will see you guys in my next video.